In this June 1st episode of 3 Etobicoke, we're going to be going through a charming 2-bedroom detached house in the neighborhood of New Toronto in South Etobicoke, listed at $1.15 million with an offer date. A triplex on a large lot in Long Branch that has big potential as a single family home, listed at $1.89 million. And a walk into the old country with a 1978 custom-built home just outside of Kingsview Village, listed at $2.1 million. If this is your first time watching, my name's Jonathan Lee, and I'm an Etobicoke specialist. 3 Etobicoke is a video series that I run weekly where I analyze 3 different properties at 3 different price points. If you're interested in learning more about any of these properties, or you would like to just chat about real estate, you can schedule a call with me through Calendly by clicking on the link either below in the description of this YouTube video or in my original email. Let's jump into the first home. Alrighty, the first home that we're going to start with today at the low level is 95 11th Street. And this home is listed at $1.15 million with an offer date. Their offer date is actually today on the day of filming, May 31st. And they're reviewing offers at 5 p.m. So far, they have 1 registered offer. And it's listed by Bosley Real Estate. I chose this home for a mixture of its mid-century contemporary charm and the location. It's located in New Toronto, which is in South Etobicoke, in between Long Branch and Mimico. So Mimico here is just to the west and Long Branch here is just to the east, and I find that not too many people know about New Toronto. New Toronto spans roughly from, I'd say, Dwight Avenue to the west, and maybe around 22nd, 23rd Street here to the east, and of course everything to the south of the train tracks. New Toronto has been a bit slower in redeveloping and regentrifying compared to Long Branch and Mimico. There hasn't been as much development come in over the past 10 to 15 years. I actually used to live in New Toronto, right around Islington and Lakeshore. It's has a really cool stretch on Lakeshore of all these little walkable shops, some pretty decent restaurants and bakeries. This whole stretch here is called Lakeshore Village. And you also have really great access to some awesome parks. But before I go too deep into it, let's just jump to the pictures and show you a little bit more about the house. So it's classed as a 1 3/4 story home, and it was built in 1931, and it's been owned by the current owner since 2016. As you can kind of maybe tell from the length of the house, it's not a huge house, and it's only classed as having 2 bathrooms. But I do love this sort of charm and the brick that they have on it. Will be a great fit for someone who's just looking for a comfortable and cozy home. Maybe they don't have a large family, but they do need more space than what their condo currently offers them. These 1930s homes will have clay brick versus some of the 1960s, 1950s homes. A lot of them will have concrete brick, and these clay bricks will actually last longer than the concrete ones. I heard a bricklayer tell me that these pretty much have a 200-year lifespan versus concrete. It's roughly 100 years. This home, it's obviously edging on to about 100 years now, but you can just see from this picture that the brick looks like it is in excellent shape. Good chance that the mortar around it has been repointed, and that's when they apply new extra mortar to protect the areas so water doesn't kind of go in there and heave the brick up. But the home itself looks like it's in really good shape from the exterior. I like that it's raised up, so it's actually not like a too deep basement, meaning that you're not going to have as much water kind of getting in there. On the interior, I think they've done a great job sort of preserving the character while giving it sort of a more modern vibe. You can see with a lot of these light fixtures, and as we go into the kitchen, they got this stone countertop, and they put this sort of stone backsplash in here to match the vibe and feel, the old vibe and feel of the home. So it's not like overwhelming with modern flair. But the bathroom, they've done a good job of making it look clean. They got heated towel bars here. And I do like that they preserve the wood trim and the original wood doors with the glass door handles as well. Really allows the character of the house to flow throughout. One thing I want to point out here is it has radiant heating and a separate air conditioning system. The air conditioning is coming through ducts from the ceiling. Many buyers will assume that forced air is king and think that radiant heating is very retro, is an inferior system, which actually couldn't be further from the truth. You actually get better temperature control and humidity control in the wintertime with the radiant heating. With forced air, I find that it tends to dry out a lot of the air in the home, and you can't really control the amount of airflow that you get in through the ducts of the home. With radiant heating, you can control the amount of hot water that you have flowing through the radiator and radiating out, and it doesn't dry out the air. air. Similarly, in the summertime with air conditioning, having a split system, especially with ducts located in the ceiling, ensures that the cold air actually travels from the hottest point to the coolest point rather than from the coolest point and dropping back down again to the coolest point, if you understand what I mean. So obviously heat rises, cold air drops. Having the air conditioning duct located in the ceiling ensures that the cold air will cool down the hot air here before dropping down to the other areas of the room. So you get a more balanced temperature in your bedrooms. And you're also not wasting it in the basement space where typically air conditioning and cold air isn't really required, and making sure that, you know, the upper levels, the second floor, are getting the most amount of cool air that it's needed. So you actually have better control of the temperature in the home. Just wanted to throw that out there. As we go through the rest of the home and into the basement looks really clean. Something that I like to see is a not super new carpet, but a carpet that has been in here for a couple years, just to make sure that, you know, there's not that seepage, there's no sort of stains on the carpet caused by water penetration coming in from the basement walls. And yeah, the basement looks super cute, looks super clean, looks a little bit small, but also very comfortable. And you got this really nice and cozy backyard space as well. Loads of charm and character. Makes it look like for a very comfortable, very clean home. Now, going back to location, one of the reasons why I chose this home and thought it was an interesting find and, you know, a nice little house is because 11th Street, in my opinion, is one of the best streets in New Toronto just because of its location. Living on 11th Street, you would have super quick access to the Toronto Public Library, which is an easy place to go and kill an hour or 2 hours with the kids. You're also just a stone's throw down here from Rotary Peace Park Pool, which is actually a really nice little pool. Has a kids area, has a kids water park area as well. And of course, being south of Lakeshore, you have quick and easy access to the lake and all the parks in South Etobicoke, such as the rest of Rotary Peace Park and Colonel Sam Smith Park and Humber College campus as well. Now, I think this home would make a great fit for a buyer that potentially has a small family, is seeking a charming home for lifestyle reasons rather than for space, and is looking for a historical, charming home that doesn't require much work. So that's 95 11th Street at my low price point. For our mid-level price point, I have 6036th Street located in Long Branch. This is located right here, just south of Lakeshore, right around Dominion and James Street. This stretch between Dominion and James tends to have a lot of low-rise apartment buildings, so triplexes, duplexes, rental properties of that nature. Similar to 95 11th Street, it's located in this great stretch of Lakeshore that is very walkable and also has great access to some really awesome parks here like Len Ford Park, Long Branch Park, and Marie Curtis Park just to the east. The property was built in 1937 and has been owned by the same owner since 1992, and it's currently classed as a triplex, but it was originally built as a single family home. It doesn't say that anywhere in the listing, but I can just kind of tell from the way the property is shaped. And I chose this property because I think it will be a really interesting single family conversion, just because it's listed as a triplex, but I don't think it's doing a great job of being a triplex. Obviously there's parking and everything like that, but just from the size and shape of the property, it's got a 2-bedroom on the main, 2-bedroom on the upper, and 1 bedroom in the basement. And at almost $2 million, it doesn't quite offer enough return for it to be worth that much from an investor. So let's quickly go through the photos here, explore the property a little bit. I can see that the owners have kept some of the character pieces of the house with the black and white tile. They've also preserved some of the wood beams in the living room. Of course, there's the old strip flooring. And on the upper level, they have similar black and white tile in the bathrooms. I do like that this home in the basement, they have this sort of walkout area as well. So it's not fully submerged underground. And they got this terrazzo sort of looking stone tile in the basement, which is a really nice feature. Just from quickly looking at the photos, it looks like the home was built really well. A similar construction to 95 11th Street in that it's got the clay brick. And we'll take a quick look at it from the street view just so that you can get a better idea of how it's oriented in the lot. So the property is located on the corner. It's got a pretty large 60 by 120 foot depth, and you can see that it's probably located only about halfway into the depth of the property, and there's quite a bit of space here just to the west of it where it can potentially expand or just use as green space, yard space. But it's got all this great backyard space that they're currently using as parking. And I think to the right buyer, potentially, you know, if they wanted to build a secondary suite here, a garden suite, that might work. I don't know if you can also tell, but they've also sort of put out a basement extension here here down below, meaning that the basement suite is actually quite large. So if I had a very healthy budget and I potentially wanted to have a character style home, I think this might be a great option. I could convert the main and upper levels back into a single family home, convert the basement potentially into an in-law suite or just into an income suite. And potentially in the future, if I had a bit more money, I could also build a garden suite in the backyard and really take advantage of the corner accessibility of this property. So that's 6036th Street. And the last home that I have in our high price range is 16 Havenridge Drive, located just outside Kingsview Village, which is right around Islington and Dixon. This property is located in the northeast corner of Islington and Dixon, right here. Kingsview Village does tend to have a lot of pretty large lots and properties. This home was a 1978 custom built home, and the reason I chose it is because I haven't really seen a property like it. Size wise, it's on a very spacious 84 by 150 lot. It's listed at 2.1 million. They did originally have an offer date of May 24th, and it was originally listed at 1.85 million, but of course it didn't sell on its offer date. Now it's listed at 2.2 million. As I mentioned, it was custom built in 1978, and the property has been owned by the same owner since 1973, so it really was a property of love. Here it is from the front here. I don't know if you can tell, but it is actually a pretty large property. One thing I want to mention, if you're ever selling your own house or a relative's house or something like that, and it has windows with steel bars on them, remove them. You're gonna have buyers inevitably come through and question the safety of the neighborhood if you have steel bars covering your windows. Not to mention, it of course is a safety hazard if there's ever a fire in the home. Let's go inside and have a look at this blast from the past. So here we are in the front entrance. Now I'm not 100% certain, but I think that this is all actually real brick instead of brick tile. Brick tile wasn't popular back in the 70s, but you can kind of tell with these arched doorways, and it looks like these are actually the full width of a real brick, and it matches the texture of the brick on the wall here. So not 100% sure, but you know, if it is, this is a pretty big brick wall, and it would have to have a proper foundation footing going down into the basement. The interior flooring looks really interesting and unique. Haven't seen flooring like this. It does look expensive, and as you go around, it has these really, they were probably considered luxurious features back in the day, but probably aren't that popular now, with these wood trim crown molding, these arched doorways with these arched doors, which were probably very expensive, especially if you imagine hanging and fitting a door. You'd need a skilled carpenter to make sure that everything fits snug. And there's just a lot of features in here as we kind of go through that you can tell were probably expensive, but are not to the modern design palette. You know, most of these rooms, they do look a little bit tight, like there's no sort of open concept feel. It's got these really nice wood beams, but the wall has been stuccoed over, which is not a popular look these days. And the stove has this brick nook, which is pretty cool, but it looks like this brick wall is kind of going throughout, and it's, again, it looks like it's actually real brick just based off of the width of these bricks in this nook. So if that's the case, then structurally the house is probably really sound. There could either be a steel beam going underneath this to support all that extra brick weight, or going down into the basement there's a continuous flow of brick wall to support all the weight that the house has. So really interesting, really solid looking house. It's got radiant heating with air conditioning vents on the main level, similar to 95 11th Street. The bathrooms are dated, but probably were expensive tiles back in the day. And the bedrooms have this oversized parquet style flooring, which looks really nice, was probably very, very expensive, but most younger home buyers don't really have much of a taste for parquet. Really interesting bathroom. Haven't seen anything like this. Feels like I'm walking right into Europe in the 1970s. So it's really clear looking at that this was a property of love. Made the extra space for the bidet and a pedestal style sink rather than a vanity. And of course, this wouldn't be a European home without a kitchen in the basement, the workhorse kitchen. Now, as I mentioned, the property's got a huge lot, makes for a great place to play soccer, throw a frisbee, toss a ball, or as these people probably did, set up some fruit trees. So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up this property is probably size-wise, this property would match a lot of people's criteria, especially as a multi-generational home. The property has 6 bedrooms, all above ground, which you can sort of see through the floor plan here. This is the main level. You have 2 bedrooms and an office, all with windows. And on the upper level, you have 3 more bedrooms with 2 bathrooms. But the style is so specific and so dated that I think only a very specific buyer, potentially someone who grew up in Europe and now can afford this as an upsizing option, would like this. Or someone that is potentially downsizing from out of town, looking to get back into the Toronto area and has an appreciation for quality versus modern style. But if you're looking for space, I think that this home probably is going to sit on the market market for a while. I'm guessing that the seller, having owned it for the last 50 years, having built and potentially lived in it for all that time, really does love and care for his or her home and has a lot of pride for it. So I don't think that they're going to accept a low or a lowball offer. But unless that really specific buyer comes along, sees the home and really falls in love with it, we could see this property sitting on the market for 2-3 months before it ends up selling under $2 million. And I think that if it does sell under $2 million, it would be a decent buy. I mean, just considering that it is on an 84 by 150 foot lot, like theoretically, just lot value wise, you could split this into two 42 by 150 foot lots and build two very spacious detached 2-story homes on it and still have a huge amount of backyard space. But I think it's interesting to kind of call into question whether this home was overbuilt, and going back, whether the owner should have maybe toned down on the finishes a little bit and gone a little bit more low key to ensure the future sellability of the home, even if it was 50 years later. But it looks like he or she built it for them to enjoy, in which case it probably was the right decision. But you just can't have the same expectations of the next buyer that's going to buy and move into this place. So potentially you're selling it as more of a blank slate or land value rather than for the home that they had enjoyed for themselves. And that's the struggle there, especially with the quality of the finishes that they put in for the time. So that's 16 Havenridge. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of 3 Etobicoke. If you have any questions about these homes or you would like to get in touch, you can click on the calendar link below to schedule an appointment. Cheers.